Once upon a time, nestled at the edge of a dense and whispering forest, stood a humble cottage with a shingled roof and ivy creeping up its stone walls. This was the home of Edgar, a skilled leather worker known for his honesty and worn hands. His livelihood was simple, shaping shoes and belts for the nearby villagers. Though the work was taxing and the pay modest, Edgar remained steadfast and kind. He had two sons who worked beside him since they were old enough to hold tools. The elder, Alaric, was proud and full of ambition, always speaking of far-off lands and treasures untold. The younger, Finian, was quiet, gentle, and curious about the world, often staring into the woods with wonder rather than restlessness. Though both respected their father, the leather-stained air of the workshop seemed to stifle their dreams. Each evening, by the flickering firelight, Edgar would speak of the importance of hard work and humility, but the boys harbored dreams beyond cobbling boots. Finian longed to learn about the stars, while Alaric craved adventure and glory. One summer afternoon, the clang of the workshop hammer was interrupted by the arrival of a dusty traveler. His boots were worn, and his cloak frayed at the hem. Edgar, ever welcoming, offered to repair the man's soul while he waited. The traveler, whose name was Marius, spoke in a voice both tired and thrilling. As Edgar worked, the boys gathered near, captivated by Marius's tales of distant mountains, glittering rivers, and cities of marble and gold. But it was one particular story that set their imaginations ablaze. "There's a place," Marius whispered, leaning forward, "far beyond the Thornshade forest. A castle, hidden so deep within the trees that even the birds forget to sing. An ancient spell holds its court frozen in slumber, unmoved by time." The boys leaned in. "At the center lies a princess," he continued, "sleeping in eternal rest. Many have ventured to wake her. None have returned." Alaric's eyes glinted with something unspoken. "And what happens to the one who wakes her?" Marius shrugged. "It said he would inherit the castle, the lands, the riches. Perhaps even her heart." Silence fell in the workshop. Only the sound of the hammer tapping leather could be heard. Finian looked at his brother and sensed a storm already stirring behind his composed gaze. That evening, after supper, Alaric stood before his father and announced his decision. "I'm leaving at dawn. I will find this castle and break the spell." Edgar put down his cup. "You are no prince, Alaric. This is not a fairy tale. I have no wish to spend my life stitching solace and patching belts," Alaric retorted. "This is my chance. I won't waste it." Finian tried to reason with him. "Even if you find it, what makes you think you'll succeed where so many have failed?" Alaric turned to him and smiled, but it held no warmth. "Because I am not like them. And perhaps you're just jealous I have the courage to try." The argument stretched long into the night, but Alaric would not be swayed. Finally, Finian said quietly, "If you're determined to go, then I'll come with you." Alaric raised an eyebrow. To lecture me in the woods? No. To keep you from getting yourself killed, Finian replied, his voice calm but firm. Edgar, recognizing the stubbornness in both his sons, knew he could not stop them. He helped them prepare for the journey in silence. Before the morning sun painted the sky, the two young men packed their bags, bread, cheese, and flasks of water, and stood at the threshold of the only home they'd ever known. Edgar embraced them both. "Take care of each other," he said, his voice thick with emotion. To Alaric, he added, "Watch over your brother. He may not be bold, but he sees clearly." The forest loomed before them, tall and dark, 1,000 shadows curling between the trees. With one last glance behind, Alaric and Finian stepped beyond the village path, the wild unknown rising before them like a living dream. They did not look back. And thus began their journey into the heart of legend, where magic sleeps beneath moss and stone, and the bravest hearts may find more than they sought. The morning mist still clung to the earth like a ghostly veil when Alaric and Finian crossed the final stone wall marking the boundary of their village. The sun had only just crept above the tree tops, casting golden streaks through the thick canopy of Thornshade forest. Their boots crunched softly on the mossy path as they ventured deeper, swallowed quickly by the emerald hush of the woods. At first, the trail was gentle. Birds sang in the treetops, and the scent of pine and damp earth filled the air. But the farther they traveled, the thicker the foliage grew. The songbirds quieted. The light dimmed. Finian kept glancing at the shadows, listening to the odd creaks and rustles. "Do you feel that?" he murmured. "What?" "That we're in a forest." Alaric smirked, adjusting the strap on his satchel. "You're always jumpy." But even Alaric, bold as he was, found his hand drifting near the hilt of the small dagger he carried more for show than use. The woods had grown strange. The path twisted, turning through mossy boulders shaped like ancient faces, and crossed over small brooks whose waters whispered in unknown tongues. By midday, they had reached a narrow clearing where sunlight spilled down like a golden pool. In the center of the path was a massive anthill, and across it marched thousands of ants in perfect order. Finian stopped. "We should go around," he said. "We'll crush them." Alaric snorted. "They're just ants." With the heel of his boot, he gave the mound a careless nudge. Instantly, the order dissolved into chaos, ants scattering, rebuilding, panicked. Finian's eyes narrowed. "Why did you do that?" Alaric shrugged. "Because I can. Because they're not worth a detour." But Finian kneeled beside the mound. With delicate fingers, he scooped some of the loose earth and tried to repair the damage. The ants buzzed around his hands, but none bit him. He whispered, "I'm sorry," as if they could hear. Alaric watched, expression unreadable. "You're wasting time." As they continued on, the silence grew deeper. Hours passed. The path narrowed. trees leaned in, their limbs like arms stretched in warning. Then, near twilight, they came upon a shimmering lake nestled in a hollow of the forest. The water reflected the crimson sky, and on its edge rested a small flock of ducks. "Perfect," Alaric said, licking his lips. "We'll steal a few eggs. Cook them over a fire." Finian frowned. "We brought food. Why take theirs?" "Because they won't miss them," Alaric said, already striding forward. The ducks, sensing danger, scattered into the water in a frenzy of feathers. Alaric searched among the reeds for nests but found none. Grumbling, he retreated and plopped under a tree, tearing into his own bread without grace. Finian, meanwhile, knelt near the lake's edge. Slowly, he tore a piece from his loaf and scattered crumbs onto the grass. "I'm sorry about that," he whispered. The ducks eyed him from the water, then cautiously waddled back to nibble the offering. As Finian sat down beside another tree to eat quietly, the woods around them seemed to exhale. The silence lightened, the air softened. That night, they slept beneath the stars, each brother wrapped in his own thoughts. The sky above flickered with distant constellations, but even their light did not ease the divide that had begun to grow between them. The next morning, they rose early and continued along the lake's edge, where the path narrowed once again into deep forest. The journey ahead promised danger and enchantment in equal measure. But unseen, high in the trees, a pair of tiny amber eyes watched them, the queen ant herself. And beside the lake, hidden among the reeds, a single duck with a shimmer in its feathers blinked slowly before vanishing into thin air. Not all acts of kindness go unnoticed. And in this forest, kindness would soon become the sharpest weapon of all. As dawn crept through the canopy, Finian stirred first. Dew clung to his cloak, and the scent of damp earth filled his lungs. He sat up slowly, rubbing the sleep from his eyes, and gazed across the lake. The ducks were gone. Only stillness remained, stillness and the hush of expectation, as though the woods themselves waited. Alaric woke moments later, grumbling as he dusted off his tunic. No eggs. No treasure. Just a sore back and moss in my boots, he muttered. They broke their fast quickly and pressed onward, the forest path narrowing further. Trees rose tall and ancient around them, their twisted roots creating small arches in the undergrowth. Strange mushrooms bloomed in vibrant colors along the path, and every now and then, they passed a stone carved with runes too faded to read. By midday, they reached a fork in the road. One path led uphill, steep, and shadowed by towering oaks whose bark looked blackened and scarred. The other meandered gently downhill, with dappled light playing across the ground and birdsong faintly echoing through the trees. This way, Alaric said immediately, pointing uphill. Finian hesitated. Why? The other path looks too easy, Alaric interrupted. The kind of path fools take when they want to wander in circles. The hard road leads to reward. Finian frowned, but said nothing. His brother was determined, and they had agreed to journey together. So they climbed. As they ascended, the forest became darker. The trees pressed in tightly. Thorny underbrush tangled around their ankles. After an hour, even Alaric's confidence began to fray. The silence became oppressive. No wind. No birds. No signs of life. Suddenly, the path opened into a narrow ravine, and blocking the way forward stood a peculiar creature, a fox, but larger than any fox they'd seen. Its fur shimmered gold in the low light, and its eyes glowed an eerie green. "Step aside," Alaric ordered, hand on his dagger. The fox did not move. "Shoo!" He barked again, waving an arm. Still, the creature stood its ground, unblinking. Finian stepped forward cautiously. "Wait, look." He pointed to something glimmering beneath the fox's feet, a nest made of forest twigs, with 3 golden feathers nestled inside. "It's guarding something sacred," Finian whispered. "So what?" Alaric scoffed. "It's in our way." Before Finian could stop him, Alaric drew his blade and advanced. The fox did not snarl, did not growl. It simply blinked once, and vanished in a gust of golden wind. The feathers remained. Without hesitation, Alaric bent to snatch one, but as his fingers touched it, a jolt of pain coursed through his arm. He cried out, stumbling back, clutching his wrist. The feather had not burned him, but left a strange blue mark that pulsed with light. Finian reached for his brother. "Are you all right?" "It's nothing," Alaric hissed. "Let's keep moving." But the forest had changed. The path they'd been following twisted unnaturally now, looping back and forth in tight circles. The trees groaned and shifted as if alive. They walked for hours, yet found themselves passing the same moss-covered rock again and again. "We're lost," Finian finally said. "No, we're not. We passed that same tree 3 times. "It's a trick of the forest," Alaric insisted, though his face had gone pale. They sat down to rest, the tension between them thick and silent. Finian opened his bag to retrieve a piece of bread. As he did, something small tumbled out, a single green leaf shaped like a heart. Confused, he held it up to the light. It shimmered. He didn't remember packing it. Then, without warning, the leaf floated from his hand and drifted gently into the air, carried by an invisible breeze. It spun, twisted, and floated forward into the trees. Finian stood. "It's showing us the way." "You're following a leaf now?" Alaric asked bitterly. Finian didn't answer. He simply walked. The leaf danced ahead, always just out of reach. Slowly, the forest around them began to shift. The thorny brambles thinned. The path widened. And then, suddenly, they emerged into another clearing. Before them stood an old stone bridge crossing a stream that sparkled silver in the dim light. The bridge was crumbling in places, but passable. Beyond it, the forest resumed, but it no longer felt oppressive. It felt ancient, watchful, expectant. Alaric paused. That shouldn't have worked. Finian smiled faintly. Maybe the forest favors humility. Alaric said nothing. As they crossed the bridge, the wind whispered through the leaves, and if one listened closely, they might have heard the rustle of golden fur in the shadows, and the soft pat of many tiny feet following just out of sight. The forest had seen their choices, and it would remember. After crossing the crumbling bridge, the brothers found themselves in a forest that no longer resembled the one they had left behind. The air was warmer here, heavy with the scent of jasmine and wild mint. Golden light shimmered through the leaves, though no sun could be seen overhead. It was as if time had slowed or bent entirely. Finian walked carefully, marveling at glowing moss that pulsed like embers and vines that swayed gently though no wind stirred. Alaric, meanwhile, stayed quiet. Ever since his encounter with the golden feather, he had grown more serious, more distant. Eventually, they came to a glade with a single willow tree in its center. Its silver leaves tinkled softly, like distant wind chimes. Beneath it sat an old woman, or at least, something shaped like one. Her eyes were the color of tree bark, and her hair flowed down like a cascade of moss. "Welcome, travelers," she said, without lifting her gaze. "Who are you?" Alaric asked, suspicious. "I am the keeper of the glen," she replied. "And you stand at the edge of the realm that does not welcome the prideful." Finian bowed slightly. "We mean no harm. We're searching for the sleeping castle." "I know what you seek," she said, her voice gentle but ancient. "But you will not reach it by force or ambition alone." She extended one hand, in it a small wooden bowl filled with clear water. "Each must drink," she said. "And what you see will be the truth you carry." Alaric hesitated. Finian stepped forward first. He cupped the water and sipped. At once, his vision blurred. He saw flashes: the ants he had saved, the ducks he had fed. But then he saw himself alone, standing before a great gate wreathed in vines, waiting patiently. The gates opened, not to the loudest, but to the kindest. He blinked. The vision was gone. Alaric stepped up next. Reluctantly, he drank. His vision swam with images of riches, a golden throne, the princess in a crystal coffin. But then flames. The castle crumbling. The throne empty. Himself, alone. He staggered back. The keeper nodded. "Your hearts are not weighed by strength, but by how you leave the world behind you. The forest knows who walks in balance." Alaric said nothing. The keeper raised her hand. "You must each now face a trial apart." What? Finian asked. We've come this far together. That is why the path must split. Without warning, the ground beneath them shimmered and shifted. The glade spun, the tree whirled like a cyclone, and suddenly they were gone. Finian's trial, the echoing stream. Finian awoke on the edge of a tranquil stream, its waters singing softly in a language he didn't know. Across the stream stood a creature of mist and light, a deer with glowing antlers, eyes deep as night. It bowed. Finian understood, he must cross. The stream was deeper than it appeared, and the current strong. He stepped in slowly, the water chilling him to the bone. Halfway across, a whisper echoed through the trees. Leave him. He turned. Shadows danced on the opposite bank. Another voice, softer. Go forward. With every step, doubt clawed at him. Was Alaric safe? Was this truly the way? But he kept walking. One step. Another. He reached the other side. The deer vanished in a burst of light. A path opened before him. Alaric's trial, the hollow path. Alaric stood in darkness. No sky. No stars. Only a trail made of bones and ash. Ahead stood a mirror, tall, flawless, gleaming. As he approached, the reflection shifted. It showed him dressed in finery, crowned, triumphant. Then the image warped, showing Finian crumbling, the forest burning, the princess screaming behind walls of vines. He struck the mirror. It cracked, but did not break. A voice whispered from the dark. You carry fire where there should be light. Then I'll forge my own way, Alaric said defiantly. The mirror crumbled into ash. Before him, a path of golden leaves emerged, leading into a tunnel of trees that glowed from within. The reunion. As twilight fell, the brothers emerged from opposite ends of a starlit grove. They stared at one another in silence for a moment, different now, quieter somehow. Finian spoke first. Are you all right? Alaric nodded. I saw things. Things I didn't want to see. Finian placed a hand on his shoulder. So did I. From behind the trees came the sound of soft chimes. A breeze picked up, carrying a scent unlike any other: rose, lavender, and something ancient. Ahead of them, through a wall of hanging vines, a glow began to rise, faint at first, but unmistakable. They were close now. The sleeping castle waited. The veil of vines before them shimmered like moonlight caught on water. Neither Finian nor Alaric spoke as they approached. Their footsteps made no sound now, not on the mossy ground, not in the sacred silence that surrounded the path. Finian reached out first. The vines parted as though sensing his presence, curling away in graceful spirals, revealing a stone archway beyond. Etched into its surface were symbols glowing faintly with blue light, runes older than language, alive with quiet power. Alaric followed, the mark from the golden feather on his arm still pulsing faintly. As they stepped beneath the arch, the forest behind them closed in with a rustling sigh as if sealing them off from the world they had left behind. Before them stretched a long corridor of trees, unnaturally straight and tall, like pillars in a cathedral. The ground was paved with interwoven roots, smooth and glistening, and above them, leaves shimmered with silver light, though the sky was nowhere in sight. And then, they saw it. The sleeping castle. Its towers rose in the distance, half swallowed by vines and mist. Turrets twisted toward the sky, their roofs shingled with crystal. Ivy crept along the stone walls, blooming with deep violet flowers that opened and closed rhythmically, as if breathing. "Beautiful," Finian whispered. Alaric said nothing, but his eyes burned with determination. They followed the path, which led to a massive iron gate wound with thorns thicker than a man's arm. A single emblem glowed above it, a rose encircled by a serpent. Beside the gate sat a statue, or what at first they thought was a statue. Upon closer inspection, it was a knight, encased in vines, his face frozen in eternal sleep. His sword had turned to rust, and moss grew from the seams of his armor. Was he one of the others? Finian asked. Alaric's jaw tightened. Weak, probably. But just as he stepped forward to touch the gate, a gust of wind swept through the clearing, and from the base of the gate, the earth cracked open. Out stepped a figure no taller than a child, but cloaked in leaves and bark, with glowing amber eyes and a voice that rustled like trees. "Only the worthy may pass." Alaric stepped forward. "I am Alaric, son of Edgar. I seek to break the spell." The figure's eyes narrowed. "And you, young one?" "I'm Finian. I just want to help." The figure nodded slowly, then raised a hand. "Then listen carefully. The castle sleeps by a curse laid not by evil, but by sorrow. Long ago, a war between realms tore the balance. The princess, Lysandra, chose to bind her people in sleep, rather than let them perish. Only a heart free of greed can wake her." The guardian's gaze bore into Alaric. "You carry pride. And pride is poison to this place. I've come too far to be turned away," Alaric snapped. "Then your actions must speak where your words fail," said the guardian. "3 tasks remain. 1 of the mind. 1 of the heart. 1 of the soul." Before they could respond, the gate rumbled. A section of the thorn-covered wall shifted, revealing 3 archways, side by side, each pulsing with a different light, one blue as the sky, one red as a beating heart, and one white as pure snow. "You must pass through alone," the guardian said. "And only the one who completes all 3 may step into the castle." Alaric turned to Finian, his voice suddenly softer. "If something happens to me..." "You're not doing this alone," Finian interrupted. We came together. We finished together. The guardian stepped aside. Alaric strode into the red archway, its glow swallowing him instantly. Finian took a breath and stepped into the blue. Finian's trial of the mind. The world reformed around him, a vast library with books floating in midair, pages flipping without wind. A voice echoed from nowhere. You must solve the riddle of memory. One book flew into his hands, its cover blank. When he opened it, he saw memories not his own, but from long ago. A girl in a garden. A crown handed over with tears. A spell whispered into moonlight. Then came the question. What is more powerful than magic, older than kings, and yet fragile as a promise? Finian thought. He closed his eyes. Remembered the ants. The ducks. The leap that led him. Then he whispered, kindness. The library dissolved into starlight. Alaric's trial of the heart. Alaric stood before three thrones. In one sat a vision of the princess, radiant and peaceful. In the second himself, older, with a crown and gold dripping from his hands. In the third Finian, sleeping, unmoving. A voice boomed. Choose one to wake. The others vanish. Alaric's fingers trembled. The princess meant glory. The throne meant power. Finian meant everything. He stepped toward his brother. I wouldn't have made it here without you. As he touched the throne, all three vanished and only one door opened ahead. Together again. Finian and Alaric reappeared beside one another, hearts pounding. The final gate before the castle stood open. You chose me? Finian asked. I didn't come all this way just to lose you, Alaric replied, eyes misty. The guardian appeared once more. Then you may enter. The brothers stepped into the final chamber where the spell awaited. And behind a wall of enchanted thorns, the princess slept still. The iron gate groaned shut behind them, and silence fell, not the silence of night or sleep, but something deeper, older, and alive. Before them loomed the great thorn chamber. Vines as thick as ropes twisted across stone archways, their tips sharp and shimmering with faint silver venom. The thorns pulsed, as if in rhythm with a slow, steady heartbeat. Beneath the vines, hints of stained glass and gold-tipped columns peeked through, suggesting the grandeur hidden within. At the heart of it all, a large wooden door stood sealed shut by 5 curling branches locked together like a puzzle. On the ground before it lay 3 stone pedestals, each with a faintly glowing symbol. One was a rose, another a mirror, the last a key. A soft voice echoed through the chamber, neither male nor female, neither human nor spirit. Only unity awakens truth. Only selflessness breaks the spell. Alaric stepped forward, eyes locked on the thorn-wrapped door. So close. we're finally here. Finian studied the pedestals. There must be one final riddle. Suddenly, each pedestal lit up. The rose bloomed with crimson fire. The mirror shimmered with ghostly reflection. The key floated into the air, then split into one half, hovering before each brother. Alaric reached for his half of the key. It burned him. He hissed and drew back. What? Finian took his half. It glowed coolly in his palm. Then the voice returned, softer this time. The door will not open to pride, nor to glory. It yields only to truth. Alaric looked down at his palm, where the blue mark from the golden feather now shone brighter than ever. It's me, it's been me all along. Finian turned to him. You've come far. You've changed. Alaric clenched his jaw. But not enough. He looked at the thorns, then at the half-key hovering in the air, and did something unexpected. He knelt. To no one. To nothing. Just a silent gesture of surrender. And in that moment, his half of the key floated back into the air, and cooled. The glow dimmed from blue to gold. Finian stepped forward. The two halves snapped together, forming a brilliant white light, and the thorn-wrapped door trembled. The vines twisted in agony, then unraveled, slithering away like snakes returning to their den. The door creaked open. The princess and the forgotten spell. Inside, the chamber was unlike anything they had seen. Starlight poured in from a dome overhead, though no stars could be seen through it. Floating orbs drifted through the air like fireflies, casting soft radiance upon marble floors carved with spells and symbols. On a dais at the center, beneath a canopy of living roses, lay a crystal casket. Within it, she slept. Princess Lysandra. Her hair cascaded like liquid silver over silk pillows. Her hands were folded over her chest, and her face, serene, timeless, and tragically beautiful, bore the weight of centuries. Finian whispered, "She doesn't look enchanted, she looks at peace." A single scroll rested at the foot of the casket. Finian picked it up. It read, "If you are reading this, I chose sleep to spare my people from the fires of a forgotten war. Let not my awakening be for conquest or reward, but for mercy and love. Only the one who seeks not to rule, but to serve, may touch the seal." Alaric stepped back. "It has to be you." Finian turned. "What?" "You were always the one who saw people, not thrones. You helped the ants, the ducks, even me. I didn't come here to claim anything," Finian said, voice cracking. "I came because you're my brother. And I came because I thought I deserved her. But, maybe she deserves better." He gestured toward the casket. "Do it." Finian hesitated, then stepped forward. He placed his hand gently on the crystal. At first, nothing happened. Then a breath. Her chest rose. A pulse returned to her cheeks. Her eyelids fluttered. And Princess Lysandra awoke. The awakening. The roses overhead bloomed in a sudden explosion of color. The floating orbs swirled upward in song. Outside, across the entire forest, the air shifted. Back in the woods, the vines fell from the castle walls. The sleeping guards in the towers stirred. The court slumbering nobles, servants, scribes slowly blinked awake from their centuries-long rest, unaware that time had passed. Lysandra sat up slowly, her eyes the color of frost-kissed dawn. She looked at Finian and smiled. "You found me," she whispered. "I didn't know I could," he replied, voice soft. "You didn't come for yourself. That's why you could." Alaric stood behind them, quietly watching. "I didn't save you," Finian said. "We both did. Together." Lysandra stood, and the chamber filled with golden light. The curse was broken. As the first rays of dawn filtered through the windows of the Thorn Chamber, the world beyond the castle stirred to life for the first time in 100 years. The vines that had coiled like serpents around the battlements fell away in brittle fragments. Birds returned to the branches. Flowers bloomed in impossible speed across the courtyard. And within the castle's ancient walls, life flowed back like water into a once dry well. The court awoke. A flurry of confused voices rose in the throne room, knights rubbing their eyes, advisors adjusting their velvet collars, and servants dropping trays they had no memory of holding. For them, only a moment had passed. Yet the dust of centuries was upon their sleeves. Princess Lysandra stood tall at the center of it all, her presence calm, commanding. She turned to Finian, who stood by her side. "Will you come with me?" He hesitated. "I don't belong here." She smiled. "You do more than you know." Behind them, Alaric remained silent. His gaze wandered over the newly revived court. For the first time, he did not imagine himself upon the throne. Instead, he imagined what it meant to build something, not take it. The ceremony of restoration. By noon, the castle prepared for a ceremonial gathering, not a coronation, not a wedding, but something older, the ceremony of restoration, an ancient tradition to mark the binding of the realms. Spirit with those who revived it. Lysandra stood upon the dais in the great hall, surrounded by her people. Her voice rang clear. "Today, I do not crown a king, nor name an heir. Today, I honor courage and kindness." Two brothers walked into the forest. But they did not seek power. They sought truth. And in doing so, they awakened not only me, but this land itself. She motioned to Finian. He who placed others before himself holds the key to our future. Finian blinked. I can't lead a kingdom. You already did, she replied. With your heart. The crowd murmured in agreement. Whispers of the humble one, the green-eyed healer, the forest's chosen floated through the marble arches. Alaric's reckoning. Later that evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills and cast golden light over the castle walls, Alaric wandered the garden alone. Statues of kings and queens watched from beneath blooming arches. He paused by a reflecting pool. His own image stared back at him, a face older than days before, though only time had passed in lessons, not years. Lysandra appeared beside him. You do not envy him, she said softly. Alaric shook his head. Not anymore. I understand now. I was never meant to break the curse. But I was meant to change. She regarded him. The forest chose both of you. You, to walk the path of humility. Him, to carry the light. He turned to her. Then, what becomes of me? That, she said, is yours to choose. The farewell feast. That night, a feast lit the castle halls not with the pomp of royalty, but with laughter, music, and warmth. Finian sat beside Lysandra, still in disbelief at all that had changed. Alaric sat across the table, clinking mugs with knights and tradesmen alike, telling tales of talking ducks and glowing deer, exaggerating every detail for effect and earning roars of laughter. When the music quieted, Lysandra stood once more. There is no throne tonight. Only gratitude. She turned to the brothers. What path you choose beyond these walls is your own. You may stay, and help us build again. Or return, and carry our story into the world. The road splits. The next morning, in the same clothes they had worn when they stepped into the forest, Alaric and Finian stood once again at the edge of the woods. The castle lay behind them, tall and gleaming. Before them the trail that would lead home. I half expected you to stay, Finian said. I thought I would too, Alaric replied. But I think I need to see the world with new eyes. No more shortcuts. No more thrones in dreams. Finian looked ahead. And I'll walk beside you. At least a little longer. From behind, a soft voice called. Lysandra stood at the gate, holding a small pouch. For the road, she said, handing it to Finian. Inside, 2 silver feathers, a folded map, and a small charm in the shape of a rose. You will always be welcome here, she said. Alaric nodded. We'll come back. When we've earned it? She smiled. You already have. Together, the brothers turned toward the trees. This time, the path through the forest opened easily before them. No vines, no riddles. Only sunlight. And the gentle sound of the world waking, at peace once more. They didn't look back. Because now, they walked forward no longer as dreamers, but as men shaped by legend, trial, and the quiet power of choosing right when no one was watching. The journey back through Thornshade Forest was unlike their passage inward. The trees seemed to bow gently as if acknowledging the brothers' transformation. The moss beneath their feet was soft and vibrant, and shafts of golden sunlight filtered playfully through emerald leaves. Alaric and Finian walked side by side, no longer rivals but partners bound by trials endured. As the familiar sounds of the village reached their ears, the clatter of blacksmith hammers, the laughter of children chasing one another, they slowed. The cottage where Edgar waited stood as steady as ever, but the air around it felt different, charged with possibility. Edgar was there on the doorstep, his eyes wide with disbelief and joy. "My sons," he whispered, voice catching in his throat. "You've returned, changed." Finian smiled, taking his father's weathered hands in his own. "We have much to tell you." The tales of the enchanted forest. That evening, beneath a sky strewn with stars, the brothers gathered the villagers by the hearth. Flickering flames danced in their eyes as they recounted their adventure, the golden feather that marked pride's fall, the trials of kindness and courage, the mysterious guardian of the glen, and finally, the awakening of Princess Lysandra and her court. Children gasped at the tale of the glowing deer and the whispering stream. Elders nodded knowingly at the lessons of humility and heart. Alaric spoke openly about his failings and growth, his pride transformed into purpose. Finian's gentle words about kindness and patience resonated deeply. The village, once bound by routine and hardship, began to hum with new life. Seeds of hope were sown. A new beginning. Inspired by their journey, Edgar's workshop flourished. He taught his sons not just the craft of leatherwork, but the wisdom of balance, the strength of humility, and the power of compassion. Alaric took to traveling between villages, sharing stories, and learning new crafts. His once fierce ambition tempered by understanding, he found joy in serving others rather than ruling. Finian, now known as the Green-Eyed Healer, tended to the forest and village alike. His knowledge of herbs and gentle touch brought comfort and health. Together, they planted a garden at the edge of the village, lavender and wildflowers that the princess had loved, a living reminder of their quest and the magic that can bloom when hearts are pure. A whisper in the wind. One crisp morning, as the brothers worked side by side in the garden, a soft breeze carried a familiar scent, jasmine and wild mint, the fragrance of the glen's keeper. A small scroll fluttered down from the sky, landing at their feet. Unfolding it, they read, "The path you walked is never alone. The forest watches, and when you are ready, it will call again." Finian looked at Alaric, a smile tugging at his lips. "Another adventure." Alaric laughed, eyes sparkling. "I think this time, we'll be ready." The forest whispered behind them, alive and eternal. Though the village had returned to its quiet rhythm, both Alaric and Finian felt an unshakable pull deep within their souls, a whisper from the ancient forest that had shaped their destiny. Every night, as darkness cloaked the land, a mysterious force seemed to stir, calling them back. One misty morning, while tending the lavender garden at the village edge, a sudden breeze carried with it a familiar scent: jasmine, wild mint, and something faintly magical. At the same moment, a faint pale blue glow flickered among the brambles nearby. Finian bent to pick up a small parchment lying on the ground. The surface was inscribed with runes that shimmered faintly, emanating an aura of ancient power. The words seemed to echo in the clearing. When the kingdom calls again, those who awakened it must step forth once more. Alaric's eyes met his brother's, filled with resolve and unease. It seems our journey is not yet over. Finian nodded gravely. We must return to the forest. Not to find the princess this time, but to confront a darkness we never saw, the shadow hidden beneath the light. A new vow. The brothers began preparations anew. No longer youths fueled by ambition alone, they were now men tempered by trials, humility, and courage. Before setting out, they knelt with their father Edgar by the family altar, pledging to protect not only their village but also the fragile balance between the mortal world and the realm of magic. Echoes of decay. This time, the forest greeted them with chilling silence, the howl of the wind through dead branches, the rustling of dry leaves speaking forgotten tales. As they ventured deeper, signs of blight revealed themselves, once crystal clear streams now blackened and still, birdsong replaced by eerie silence, vast swaths of forest withered and lifeless, as though a creeping sickness had taken root. Finian held the willow wand given by Princess Lysandra aloft, sensing the spread of a dark energy that gnawed at the very heart of the woods. Confronting the shadow. As dusk fell, they arrived at a wide clearing dominated by a towering shadowy figure, not a beast, but an ancient spirit once sworn to protect the forest, now imprisoned by the curse Lysandra's awakening had fractured. The shadow spoke in a voice thick with sorrow and rage. I was the guardian, betrayed, and cast into darkness. Now, I seek only freedom. Alaric and Finian understood at last. This was the missing piece, the shadow's fury and grief necessary to restore the balance they had disturbed. A choice of fate. Before them lay a choice that would shape not just their lives, but the fate of both worlds. To release the shadow and risk chaos in exchange for true freedom, or to bind it once more, preserving fragile peace but condemning the spirit and the forest to endless torment. The path ahead was uncertain, and their decision would echo through time. The clearing was cloaked in twilight, the last rays of the sun fading beneath twisted branches. The shadow loomed larger than before, its form shifting like smoke caught in a breeze, flickering between darkness and faint glimmers of light. Alaric stepped forward, voice steady but laced with caution. We know who you are, the guardian turned prisoner. What do you want from us? The shadow's eyes, like twin coals burning with ancient pain, fixed on him. Freedom, and justice. Betrayed by those I swore to protect, cursed to dwell in darkness. Release me, and I will restore the balance. Deny me, and the rot will consume all. Finian's gaze softened. Is there no way to break the curse without more suffering? The shadow's form contracted, sorrow pouring from its voice. The curse is woven into the land's very soul. To heal it, I must be freed, but freedom comes at a price. Alaric clenched his fists. What price? A choice, the shadow replied. One brother must sacrifice his path to remain bound, taking the darkness in his place, so the other may live and the forest may thrive. The brothers exchanged glances. Fear, determination, and love mingled in their eyes. I will not abandon my brother, Finian said quietly. And neither will I, Alaric answered. The shadow's form pulsed with power. Then prove your worth. Face 3 trials of sacrifice, trust, and courage. Only united can you overcome. Trial 1, the sacrifice of self. Suddenly, the clearing faded, replaced by a swirling mist. Alaric and Finian found themselves standing on opposite cliffs, separated by a raging river of shadows. A whisper filled the air. To bridge the chasm, one must relinquish what he holds most dear. Alaric closed his eyes, envisioning the dreams he'd once chased: glory, power, recognition. One by one, those visions faded. Finian's thoughts drifted to the village, to the people they loved, and the quiet life they'd long abandoned. With a mutual nod, the brothers released their deepest desires into the mist, which solidified into a shimmering bridge connecting the cliffs. Trial 2, the test of trust. As they crossed, the shadows thickened. Illusions of betrayal surfaced, visions of each brother turning away, leaving the other behind. Voices hissed doubts. Can you trust one who once envied you? Finian faltered but reached for Alaric's hand. Always, Alaric whispered. Their grip strengthened, breaking the illusions, and the path ahead brightened. Trial 3, the courage to choose. At the journey's end stood a stone altar with 2 chalices, one glowing with radiant light, the other dark as midnight. The shadow's voice echoed. One must drink the light and the other the dark. Only through sacrifice will the forest be saved. The brothers stared long and hard. Neither spoke. Finally, Alaric stepped forward and lifted the dark chalice. No, Finian protested, but Alaric smiled sadly. It's my choice. You have the light. Finian's eyes brimmed with tears. As Alaric drank, shadows swirled around him, twisting and then settling into calm. The forest breathed deeply, healing. The aftermath. Finian knelt beside his brother. You saved us all. Alaric's eyes gleamed faintly, and I chose love over pride. Together, they faced the shadow no more, for it was now part of Alaric, held in balance by his sacrifice. The forest's whisper softened to a song. Their destiny, forever intertwined. The forest had begun to heal. The dark river that once raged between the brothers' cliffs calmed into a tranquil stream, its waters reflecting the stars and the promise of a new beginning. Yet, for Alaric, the price of salvation weighed heavily on his shoulders. Though the shadows no longer whispered threats to the land, they now dwelled within him a constant presence, a reminder of the sacrifice he had chosen. A heavy heart. As dawn broke over the village, Finian awoke to find Alaric standing at the edge of the lavender garden, his silhouette dark against the soft morning light. His eyes, once fiery with ambition, now held a depth of weariness and wisdom beyond his years. "Brother," Finian called gently. Alaric turned, offering a faint smile. "I feel the shadow within, Finian. It's not a curse, but a responsibility. A flame I must guard so it does not consume." Finian stepped beside him. "You are not alone in this." Alaric nodded, but the weight of his new burden was evident. He had traded his dreams of glory for a silent guardianship, standing as the living barrier between light and darkness. The village notices. The villagers began to sense a change. Alaric, once brash and bold, now moved with a quiet grace. His laughter came less often, replaced by thoughtful silences. Yet, when the village faced troubles, a sudden illness among the livestock, a violent storm, or a stranger in need, Alaric was there, offering strength and protection with a calm that inspired trust. One evening, an elder approached him in the square. "You carry a heavy burden, young master." Alaric bowed. "And I will carry it as long as I am needed." Finian's role grows. Meanwhile, Finian blossomed as a healer and mediator. The enchanted garden they had planted grew lush and vibrant, becoming a sanctuary not only for the villagers but also for weary travelers and magical creatures seeking refuge. He taught the children the stories of the forest, tales of courage, sacrifice, and the delicate balance between worlds. One day, a young girl brought him a withered flower, asking if it could be saved. Finian smiled. Sometimes, even the smallest care can bring life back from the brink. The call of the forest. But peace was never guaranteed. One twilight, while wandering near the edge of the woods, Finian heard a familiar rustle. The soft chime of leaves, the whisper of the wind, and the faint glow of amber eyes watching from the shadows. It was the keeper of the glen. "You walk paths both mortal and magical," she said. "The balance you guard is fragile. The shadow you bear will test you both." She handed Finian a small seed, black as night but pulsing with life. "Plant this where the light touches the dark. It will bind your brother's burden and heal the rift." A dangerous journey. Together, the brothers set out once more, crossing the threshold where village gave way to wildwood. Their journey was marked by both wonder and peril. Creatures of light and shadow watched them closely. The seed's power was unpredictable. It whispered secrets and fears, dredging memories long buried. At the forest's heart, where day and night entwined, they planted the seed beneath an ancient tree, the first to survive the curse. A radiant bloom erupted, golden and pure, weaving tendrils of light through the roots and canopy. The shadow within Alaric softened, no longer a roaring flame but a steady ember. A new dawn. Returning to the village, the brothers were changed not by magic alone, but by their shared trials and the deepening bond between them. Alaric embraced the shadow as part of himself, a guardian in perpetual balance. Finian's healing hands touched every corner of their world, weaving hope where there had been despair. Together, they became legends not for thrones or power, but for the courage to sacrifice, to trust, and to choose love above all. The morning sun rose over the village, casting golden light across the lavender fields and the cobblestone streets. The air was alive with the sweet scent of flowers and the joyous chatter of villagers greeting a new day, a day unburdened by curses and fears, yet forever marked by the sacrifices of two brothers. The brothers' final journey. Alaric and Finian stood side by side once more at the edge of the enchanted forest, the place where their epic journey had begun, where magic and destiny had intertwined. Alaric's eyes, now calm and steady, met Finian's, whose gaze shone with hope and quiet strength. "We made it," Finian said softly. Alaric nodded. "More than that. We changed everything. A kingdom reborn." Behind them, the forest stretched wide and vibrant, alive with birdsong and shimmering light. The curse had lifted completely, replaced by a balance forged through courage and love. Princess Lysandra's court thrived, guided by wisdom and compassion. The village blossomed, becoming a beacon of harmony between human and magical realms. The eternal guardian. Though the shadow still dwelled within Alaric, it no longer defined him. It was a part of the delicate balance he maintained, a guardian not just of the forest, but of hope itself. Every night, under the watchful stars, Alaric would walk the woods, his presence a shield against darkness, his heart bound to the promise of protection. Finian, the healer of hearts. Finian's hands healed not only wounds but spirits. His gentle voice soothed fears, his knowledge of herbs and magic helped sustain the fragile peace. He nurtured the enchanted garden that stood as a living testament to the journey, a place where every flower told a story, every breeze whispered a lesson. A village transformed. The villagers, once simple and wary, now lived with open hearts and minds. They embraced the magic around them, learning from the brothers' tales and wisdom. Festivals celebrated the bond between worlds. Children grew up knowing the stories of bravery, sacrifice, and the power of choosing kindness. A new call. One quiet evening, as the brothers sat beneath the blooming tree at the garden's heart, a gentle wind stirred the leaves. A soft glow appeared, the keeper of the glen's familiar presence. She smiled, her voice a melody on the breeze. "Your journey is the beginning, not the end. The worlds will always call for those who dare to walk between light and shadow." Finian looked at Alaric. "Are we ready for what comes next?" Alaric grinned. "Together, always." The legacy continues. And so, the tale of Alaric and Finian, the brothers who faced darkness, embraced sacrifice, and chose love, became legend. Their story lived in the rustle of leaves, the bloom of lavender, and the hearts of all who believe that even in the darkest shadow, light will always find a way. Title: The Brothers of Thornshade, A Tale of Light, Shadow, and Sacrifice. Description: In a quiet village bordering the ancient Thornshade forest, two brothers Alaric and Finian embark on a perilous journey to awaken a sleeping princess and break a centuries-old curse. Facing trials of pride, kindness, and sacrifice, they must confront not only the magic of the enchanted woods but also the shadows within themselves. As their quest unfolds, they discover that true strength lies not in power, but in humility, trust, and love. A richly woven fantasy tale of courage, brotherhood, and the delicate balance between light and darkness.